What's happening, everybody? It's Rob from the Basement Bike Shop, and in this video I'm going to show you how I put a detangler on my Wethepeople Trust. Now there are a couple different detanglers out there. All are very similar, starting with the Odyssey Gyro. It's an open ball bearing system. One of the more basic detanglers that's been around for a long time. There are also some nylon bushing ones, like the Snafu Mobius and the Kink Myriad. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And these use a nylon bushing instead of a bearing. Saves a little bit of weight and still rides pretty smooth. Then there's the Shadow Conspiracy Sano V2. This is a bearing ride detangler. Very smooth, but it's a little bit wider than all the other ones. You'll also need a top plate and a top plate spacer, or if you have a stem with gyro tabs, then you'll need the gyro tabs for that stem. Now if you're running the Shadow Conspiracy Sano V2, there's a special top plate that comes with it. It's the only top plate that works with this detangler. Today we're going to be installing the Kink Myriad. And because I have a stem that has gyro tabs, we'll be installing that instead of a top plate. You'll also need the gyro tabs that go on the frame and the screws that go with that. With any of the detangler installations, you'll need the upper cable, which goes from the top of your detangler to your lever, and your lower cable, which goes from the bottom of your detangler to your brakes. Now these are sold separately, so make sure you get both. Now your upper gyro cable looks something like this. It has the one cable that goes to your lever that hits the splitter and then goes to two cables. One is longer than the other one. The shorter one goes to the side that the lever is on, and the longer one goes to the other side. There's a new barrel for your lever if you need one, and then two different barrels for your upper gyro plate depending on what size the holes are in it. To figure out which ones you need, you can take your upper gyro plate or the gyro tabs from your stem and take the barrels and see which one screws into your gyro tabs or gyro plate, and those are the ones you'll need. As for the lower cable, when we take out of the package, it'll also have a splitter, but your two cables are the same length, and then the other end will just be bare, and you'll have to cut it to size. Again, with the two barrels sets that it comes with, just take one of your lower tabs, gyro tabs, and see which one of the barrel adjusters screws into it. In our case, it's also the black ones. The silver one doesn't, the black one does. So then those are the ones we'll use for that. The lower cable also comes with a ferrule after you cut it to size and a cable end. We'll start by removing the old cable. We'll turn our barrel adjuster on the frame all the way in, and then unhook our straddle cable. And then we'll disconnect our main cable from the straddle cable holder thingy. We'll take our cable frame strap off, or if you have a zip tie, you can just cut it. and then we're going to pull the cable out from the frame guides. And then after that, we'll disconnect it from the lever. Now the lever barrel and jam nut will have a slot in it, and you just want to line that all up with the slot that's already in the brake lever. Feed your cable through and then pop the end out. Next, we're going to flip the bike right side up and prepare for the stem removal. Now if you do this in a bike stand, make sure you prop up the front tire with something so that the fork doesn't fall out of the frame. It's actually easier to do it while the bike's on the ground and you're just kind of sitting on the seat. The next thing I'm going to do is put my lower gyro tabs on my frame. There's two holes, one's threaded, one is not. You put the peg on the gyro tab in the non-threaded hole and then screw the screw in the other one. You can tighten these down all the way right away. I'm just working my way from the bottom up so that the gyro isn't in my way when I put these tabs on. Next, we're going to loosen up our stem and remove it. Always start with the side bolts, no matter what kind of stem you have. Loosen that first, and then remove your cap bolt. Then you're just going to remove your stem and bars together. Now this is usually when the fork goes shooting out the bottom if you don't have your front wheel propped up. Slide your detangler over. Now this is where I would put my stem back on, but if you don't have gyro tabs on your stem, like most people don't, this is where you would put your upper gyro plate and plate spacer on, which goes on top of your gyro plate. Now if it doesn't leave enough room for your stem, you might have to remove a spacer that's equal to the plate and the upper plate spacer. Just make sure that when you do it, you still have enough room for your detangler to move up and down, and that's plenty of room right there. And then you're ready to put your stem on. And then just tighten it down like you normally would. Your cap bolt first and then your side bolts. But we're not doing that because I have gyro tabs on my stem. So we'll put the spacer back in and then just put my stem on and bolt it down. And then again, we check to make sure we have enough travel in the detangler so that the brakes are going to work properly. And that is plenty. And then we'll put our top gyro tabs on. How I'm going to do that is I'm just going to get it started and then take a adjustable wrench and tighten it on the bottom part so that I can hold it in place exactly where I need it. And then tighten it down with my Allen wrench. Now, as you can see, all of our hardware except cables is installed, and all we have to do is put cables on. If you need to know more about putting the brakes and the brake lever on, you can check out my other videos and they'll help you with that. The next thing we're going to do is put our adjustable barrels on our cables. We're going to take the jam nut completely off, slide the barrels on, and then slide the jam nut over the top and put it back on our adjustable barrel. And we're going to do that to all 4 of the ends. The next thing we're going to do is install our bottom cable / cut our bottom cable to size. So the first thing you're going to do is put the adjustable barrels into the lower gyro tabs. Just by holding the cable straight up and down, pull back on it a little bit, and then screw them in about halfway. And then do the same for the other side. Get them about as even as possible. And then hook the cable ends into the bottom of the detangler. Then with all the ferrules all the way in place, we're going to measure the cable to see how far we need to go to reach the next cable stop. Then holding that mark, we're going to slide the cable housing off of the cable. Very important. You don't want to cut the cable inside too. And then cut the housing. Make sure that there's no metal covering the end. And then slide the housing back on the cable. I usually slide it in the factory end first and then give it a couple punches, and eventually it punches through the other side. Wiggle the cable around to widen it out, and then slide your ferrule on. Then you're gonna rethread the cable through along with the housing, and then carefully, so it doesn't get pinched, feed everything back together. After that, we'll install our straddle cable, hook it in one side of the brake and then into the other. Then we'll run the lower gyro cable through the center bolt of the straddle cable holder. Then I'm going to hold the brake pads about a ½ inch off the rim and then tighten down the bolt that clamps the cable. Next, we're going to install the top cable with all the slots in the jam nut and the barrel all lined up yet from when we removed the last cable. You'll feed that cable in and then tighten the barrel in all the way. On the other end of the upper cable, you'll see that one cable is longer than the other. The longer one will go to the far side and the shorter one will go to the side that the lever is on. And just like the last one, pull up a little bit on the cable housing and tighten it in all the way for now. And then do the same to the other side. After that, we're going to hook the cable ends into the top of the detangler or gyro. Now we're going to start by adjusting our upper cable. We're going to start with the adjustable barrels on the upper detangler plate. What we want to do is take the slack out of the cable on the bottom. So we're going to turn the upper barrels out until it lifts the detangler just off of the lower barrels. And this will take all the lower slack out. Then we're going to go to the top side, the barrel on the lever and the barrel on the splitter, and we're going to take the upper slack out. by turning out the barrel on the splitter and the barrel on the lever. I try to turn both out kind of evenly until there's no more slack in the lever. Then after we get that done, we'll go into the micro adjusting. Technically my detangler is on backwards because the words are supposed to go to the front. But because I have a drop stem on, you wouldn't see the words anyway. So I put it on the other way. It doesn't really matter. As for the micro adjusting, now we're going to get the detangler to sit level. Now you can tell that it doesn't sit level by the way it flip-flops when you turn the bars back and forth. And all we're going to do is eliminate that by bringing one side up a little more and seeing if that helps. And if not, we'll bring the other side up more and lower that one back down until we can get it to not flip-flop. Once we get it exactly where we want it, we can tighten down our jam nuts with a 10mm so that we know it's not going to move on us. After that, the last thing to do is adjust the barrel on the frame to get our brakes to pull exactly where we want them to. I try to get them as close to the rim as possible without rubbing. Now if one brake pad rubs and the other one doesn't, you may need to adjust the springs on your brakes. If you need to do that, I have a great video on how to adjust the springs on your brakes. And that's about it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you like what I'm doing, you can go ahead and subscribe and I'll keep these videos coming. If you don't want to miss my next video, you can turn on those alerts and you'll be notified as soon as it drops. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, you can go ahead and comment below or you can send me an email. Thanks again.